Hey guys, this is Coach Tim. Come on with me for my morning walk. Come spend 5 minutes with me. I got some stuff to tell you. I'm going to teach you right now how to win more football games. Okay, how about that? Think you could use that? Okay, let me tell you, probably the number one way to win football games. Okay, that was my first headline I had for this, because I knew you wouldn't listen to this one. Our game is dying. That's my sub-headline. All right, so by you helping save our game, you're going to win more football games. What do I mean by that? Well, let me start off by talking about the problem. Now, we all know about the concussion problem. In fact, last year, the NFL, in all its glory and all its wisdom and all its concern for football players, raised the amount of concussions from 207 to, I believe it was somewhere around 275. Okay, for the season going into, I think, the Super Bowl. And I know one of the Broncos had a concussion because that guy laid on the ground with not knowing where he was. He thought he was back home in Denver, I think. So here's what's going on. It's more than just concussions, the problem, okay? The problem is way beyond just concussions. It's not dealing with the concussion issue. The NFL football is getting eaten by itself and its own success. It happens. But here's the numbers. The numbers are that we, as a nation, have lost 10,000 high school participants in football between the years 2014 and last season, 2015. I believe it will get worse. Okay, we saw that locally in Southern California. I saw this with my son's leagues. I saw it reported in the LA Times that participation in high school football is down across the board. Teams had to scramble to reschedule games because all of a sudden they find out their opponent in 2 weeks doesn't have a freshman team. So now teams with 3 teams are finding each other mid-season in order to have a game and compete. So now the leagues are getting all realigned across the board in high school football, where you're only going to have 2 participating teams, a frosh-soph and a varsity. So those are kind of the problems that we're having to deal with. And but there's even worse. The other problem that we're dealing with is that participation in youth sports is down across the board. I think it was a 2012 Wall Street Journal report saw reported 10% of youth not participating in any sport. They just exited. Okay? His theory, the author, was that they are leaving because they cannot hit the reset button. They're not willing to put in the time of a multitude of practices, which can get boring, let's face it. So they'd rather be at home. I don't think he used this word, but I call it the PlayStation generation. It's a lot easier to play PlayStation. So if you can hang with me, I'm going to show you why this matters to you in winning. Okay? The reason is that one of the reasons concussions is not being dealt with, and one of the reasons why we saw a professional football player unravel in the Super Bowl, besides the meanest defense I've ever seen, but I digress, is because, to quote Coach Franklin at the Southern California Falcons, we've lost those old-time values. Okay, I have videos of him. I know he's on my channel talking at Win Forever. A few years back, he spoke at LA 84. He was interviewed where they had the concussion talk. You can look up LA 84 on YouTube, and he's in there. He talks about us losing those old-time values. What are those old-time values? Well, if you grew up with a good coach, you had words like discipline. You knew words like character. You knew words like hard work. You knew words like teamwork. You knew words like character. Did I say that again? Oh, maybe I should say it 3 times. Character. We have let that go because it sounds syrupy. because it sounds syrupy. It's not X's and O's. I'm a coach, man. I coach X's and O's. Well, you know what? Some of you guys could probably out X and O me all day long, and I'll whoop your ass, because my kids won't give up. When I coach, I know that my coaches and my kids are playing from a sense of character, from a sense of a greater good called team. There is no man greater than the team, I guess, until you get to the Super Bowl. But I digress again. I'm not bagging on him. I'm just saying it was predictable. I just wish for his sake it wasn't so predictable, as I didn't think it would be that bad. And he just keeps putting his foot in his mouth. And for apologetics, that's great. But here, let me tell you, here's the problem. The problem is that several years ago, when we were kids, there was a company called Nike who figured out that if they can go overseas and pay third world countries 10 cents to make a pair of shoes, and they'll slap a swoosh on it and then come up with a slogan called "Just Do It," and come up with an athlete such as Michael Jordan or Bo Knows Football, every fat white kid and fat black kid in America could go buy those shoes, and now they accomplished something. That's marketing. That's neuro marketing 101. Attach a feeling to a product. Now you feel like you have the product, right? Victoria's Secret is another example if we're going to talk about marketing. But the whole thing here is that this generation has grown up without those syrupy values. And the coaches are not incentivized at the higher levels to care, because these guys aren't going to be on the team long enough for them to care. They're gone in 2 years. They're on to the next contract somewhere else, right? They're more worried about their money, and hey, so are the coaches. Everybody's in it to get paid. The problem is that we've reached a point where that mentality will not carry us forward. Long ago, there was a guy, a Jew, who was put in a Nazi concentration camp, and he broke out. And the story's long, I won't bore you with it, other than he broke out, and where they were burying in piles of dead, killed, gassed, however killed Jews, he snuck out naked and jumped into the pile of rotting bodies in order to make his escape. His name was Viktor Frankl. There's, I think, a few books that he wrote. He developed a concept called, I think it was called logotherapy. He's a psychiatrist. And he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And the thing is that that's what football's all about, is a greater good, a greater purpose than ourselves. And the greatest purpose in football is football itself. Nobody's greater than team. Nobody's greater than the game. Nobody is greater than those that came before us. Okay? It's funny because I've been called twice. One time for having this kind of conversation, once by a coach in a very, very large BCS university. He's a kid, so I give him a pass. If he was an adult, I would rip him a new one, but I didn't. The other one was just a fan. And so my question is there's too many fans that have become coaches. Are you a fan or are you a coach? Because if you're a fan, you're whipping out cliches like it's going out of style, thinking you're saying something. But you go underneath those cliches and there's nothing there. They're shallow. They're hollow. They're purposeless. They're without purpose. They're without value. Value is a cool word for what we use in sports called philosophy. Philosophy is a code of conduct. It is a something that we work off of. We all have our own values, and values are looked at also, like philosophy, as if it's a noun. Values are demonstrated. So what are you demonstrating to save our game? Because I'm going to tell you something. If you're not making these kids better humans for after football, which may be, the second game, it may be camp. It's happened to some of you. It may be next year. Hey, if they go on to high school, great. If they go on to college, great. Been there, done that. I'm proud of those kids. But I'm also proud of the kids that went on to serve in the military, became doctors. Amos Alonzo Stagg, the winningest football coach in history until Bear Bryant broke his record. And then after that, somebody else did. If you don't know those two names, you're way too young. You need this message more than most. That he was asked about his kid's success. And he said, his team's success. And he said, I will know for another 20 years. That guy was John Wooden's hero, his mentor in some ways. They didn't know each other, but Wooden studied Alonzo Stagg pretty well. And in interviews, Wooden, when asked about his team, would always talk about their achievements after college, after pro basketball. Rarely talked about their game, other than giant things they learned when they got into adversity. That was the win. He never talked about winning the game. He talked about winning the moment. And that's the secret, fellas. That's the secret to winning, is not to win. Other than to win in the moment. And the way to win in the moment is to build a religion, if you will, around your game, around your team. Include your parents, include your administrators. Everybody's got to buy in. But if it's empty, if it's just a pair of shoes, you ain't going to win. Inevitably, predictably, the excuses will come. Oh, they cheat. Oh, they recruit. Oh, they. Never me. If you're not winning, look in the damn mirror. If you're winning, look at your team. Okay? Now that was a rip-off. I thought I ripped it off of the Harbor College guy. I found out somebody else said it years ago. We are on the shoulders of the great guys that came before us. And even though I'm speaking to you as a youth coach, as my experience in 13 years of coaching and administrating, I can also tell you as an ex-player and a marketer and a neuro-marketer that this will win for you. This will give you more success, but even better than that, it'll give you more contentment. It'll be more fulfilling when you win, because you know you didn't just win a game. Who cares? You won the hearts and the minds of your team. Now I'm gonna let you go. This has run long, and we're at 14 minutes, so there goes my 5-minute theory, but hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm just gonna leave it at this. What I just said is complete bullshit. Okay? It's bullshit. But it's the best bullshit you've heard so far. Guarantee you. Okay? It will work. Now, when you can come up with some better bullshit than what I just fed you, go for it. Alright? Now, I'm demonstrating what I just preached. I'm only doing this because I'm in fear for our game. And what I feared, what I changed in this message, because this isn't the first time I've cut this tape, was I was just going to say our game's dying and start from there, and then I'm going to sound like what I always sound like, just Coach Tim railing. Okay? I started with how to win more games. And maybe you thought I was going to go into X's and O's and real secret sauce like that. There is no secret sauce, guys. X's and O's is just math. cut the field in half at the center and figure out the number stacks. If you're on defense and they're overloaded on one side and you're not, guess what? You lose. Okay? That's math. That's football. Again, brought to light by me to me by Coach Mendoza. So I'm going to tell you right now, go to a larger cause. Find out why you're coaching. What are you doing it for? Because if it's not to make this game better, if it's not to make the kids better beyond the game, what are you doing? Because it's kind of selfish if you ask me. I'm going to have these once in a while in the off season, hopefully maybe the season 2, but hopefully you'll enjoy this. Hopefully this is useful. Please comment where you can. Most of the time you'll probably find this on Facebook. It'll also be up on YouTube on my coaching channel. And peace out, guys. I love you, but more importantly, I love the game.